The Venice Enviro wood stove, model 1200V, is one heck of a fireplace trying to get to the motor. I had to replace it after the first year, and it was a big problem getting the top off. I've already removed the top on this. There is 4 screws that holds it, and they are very hard to get to by going under the top. I quit putting them back in there. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the bottom. That just slides out. It's just there for looks, and it's noisy when you move it. Now what I'm planning on doing is down inside of this thing there is 4 bolts which are 7/16. Right there is one. I've already took the nut off, and there is the new motor. So I got to take out 2 more screws down in here. You can see the top one. That's a 7/16. And then I'm going to take this plate off the front. And I'm going to try something. I may end up making a mess, but I got to have an easier way. I don't know why the manufacturer welded the parts together down in there. That piece, it's L, it turns to the left. That is welded to that plate. So all I'm going to do is take the front off and cut it right down between that bow hole and straight down the other, and this way this left side will be able to take it off and get to the motor. The way it is now, you almost have to pull the fireplace out to get that motor. So I'm going to take this piece here that the light is shining on, take it off, and all I got to do is lift it up, and then it'll come off. And I'll come back on video here. Okay, I got the bottom piece taken out of the way, and I took the top one off. And now I'm going to take the 4 bolts out and take the front plate off. This thing here, this piece, it runs down through the side. Okay, and that's it for this spot. I got all the 4 bolts out. The bottom one on the right hand side, finally got it done with a open end, boxed in 7/16. This bottom nut I may not put back on if it don't vibrate. But now I got the bolts loose, and this comes right off. Just like that. And they have this piece right here welded to this piece. I'm thinking about taking a sawzall and cutting right down through here all the way down so I can get this off and get to the motor. Otherwise you got a heck of a problem trying to put them little nuts back on if you take the motor off. So here goes. To be able, before I saw this top bracket right here has to come off. So I loosened the nut, the bolts, and it slipped right out. This way your blade won't be banging against it when you start cutting. I think I might have forgot to mention the bolts that is up under there, those 4, 2 on each side, are 7/16. Now I've got this split apart. It made a little bit of a noise. I used a sawzall, and here's the sawzall, and I'm using these kind of washers on where the bolts go through to keep this side back on. So This is what it looks like. Now I can get to the motor and clean it like it should be. Whoever manufactured this made a good fireplace, but they sure didn't leave you any way to get to your motors. And we'll see what it looks like in a little bit, how I can put it back together. It didn't make too much of a mess. This is all the shavings off the metal. But like I said, it was a little noisy in here. And I did put a stick down in there to keep the wires out of the way, so it wouldn't cut down. Okay, I'll vacuum this out and then put it all back together. Okay, I'm putting back this piece here. And I don't bolt it back to the top. Not necessary. So I'm using a little socket here. And I'll tighten that up. And we'll proceed. That plate don't really have to be bolted to the top, and that's a bummer trying to get it off. Did that 2 years ago or a year ago, and it's just not necessary, but it probably is for shipping. I put the 2 nuts on the right hand side to hold the facing back on. So I've got a nut, but it's loose, and the nut down the bottom, it is also loose. I don't even know if I'll tighten that real tight. It's hard to get off. Probably have to take a 7/16 and cut the little guy in half, and then you could clear the floor. I think we had this flooring changed since I've been in that motor before, because I don't remember that bolt there on the bottom right hand side being a pain to get the nut off. Well, anyhow, okay, so now I'm going to put this part together, and I'm going to use the original bolts, this right here, and then I'm going to go through these holes and I put the washers on the inside, and it'll squeeze it. Well, that's what I'm going to find out. You can see how the big flat washer is holding both pieces together, and that goes all the way down, and I actually got a little bit of a gap, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. Everything seemed to be okay. I did lose one of them bolts that goes through the rubber spacer. It went backwards into that crack and never come out the bottom. But I tested it, and there's no rattle or anything. These are some of the tools that I used. I did cut off a wrench to get to the 7/16 on the bottom, and I used only 2 of those 1/4 inch big flat washers. And there's the nut for the one that if I have a problem, I'll get another bolt and see if I can get it in there. And okay, so I also have a magnet there whenever I drop something behind there. And it's already got attached to the screwdriver. So anyhow, that's a magnet. And I'm in the process of putting the framing back together. There's what it looks like all back together. Naturally, the flour is not going to be sitting there when I build a fire. But the fan does work, and we're good to go. I hope that this has been helpful for you. It's been an adventure for me, because I put it all together, well, except the bottom and the top. Found out I had pulled one of my wires loose from the motor. So I had to take it back apart. So you see, it looks okay. All looks normal. And there's no rattles or nothing. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed.